the folks at Lone Wolf kindly did as I asked. They experimented with it, and they produced a few barrels and gave them to their employees to shoot our 10mm load in, which they did with total success. Everything chambered, everything worked, and my emails stopped finally with people telling me I didn't know how to make ammo. Hi folks, Tim Sundles here. My beautiful wife Kim is filming, and we've been sitting here discussing family problems, so I gotta put a smile back on my face and do this video. This video is another video about ammunition and gun interaction nuances, which are only nuances if you haven't had them sabotage your shooting session. Because with ammunition, 1/1000th of an inch can matter inside, gun dimensions inside the chamber, the barrel. 1/1000th of an inch can change the way everything works. And I'm not saying it will change the way everything works. I said it can. And so they are nuances until they cause you a problem. Then they're catastrophes. So the ojive of a bullet is the part of the bullet where the bullet comes to full diameter from the nose down. So if we look at this cartridge, you can see right above the case mouth a flat surface on the bullet right here where it has come to full diameter outside of the case mouth. It's not full diameter just inside the case like some ammo is. It's full diameter right up here outside the case mouth. That's the ojive. Now if you look at it like a facsimile of, this is a 10mm case. This is our 220 grain load. This is a 9mm case or cartridge. It doesn't come to full diameter on the bullet except right at the case mouth. And true, you could always seat it out further, make it longer, and make it come to full diameter outside the case mouth. But you'd get into length issues. You'd be doing things out of spec. Here's the problem. Modern ammo, to create more case capacity, more powder capacity down here, you start moving the bullet weight forward up into here. So you put a wider nose on it and you move the ojive outside the case mouth. This creates more capacity down here so you can add more powder and make a more high performance, higher velocity load. Well, here's where you get into the issue. Your chamber in a semi-auto, right in front of the chamber has what's called a throat or a lead. Military pistols were designed for military ammo, which have no ojive, no bullet ojive outside the mouth, the case mouth. It's all at the case mouth and below on the bullet shank. It's below the case mouth. So they made these guns with no throat. It just goes straight from chamber right into riflings. Whereas a more modern chamber will have the chamber and the bullet will head space on the case mouth in terms of these semi-auto cartridges. And then in front of where the chamber ends, you get a lead or a throat. And it's kind of like free bore. There's no rifling there, gives the bullet a chance to move forward a little bit before it engages rifling. Well, right now, the two companies I know of that are making pistols with no, and there's probably others, with no throat or no, call it a chamber throat, call it a chamber lead, whatever you want to call it, is CZ and FN when it comes at least to 9mm's, 45 ACPs, because CZ is a military contractor. They're a military maker. So the 9mm came out, geez, what, 120 years ago almost? And so they're still cutting their chambers to 120-year-old military specs where there is no bullet ogive outside the case mouth. You didn't need it. I mean, military ammo is round-nosed ball ammo, full-jacketed ball ammo. You don't need to create more case capacity because it's already as high performance as the military wants it. But a cartridge like this, 10mm, if you want to push a heavy bullet like a 200 or a 220 grain, you will get ogive outside the case mouth and you'll get a wide nose up here because that allows you to take a heavy bullet and move some of the material off the shank or the length of the bullet and put it out here in front on the bullet so you create extra powder capacity. I hope that makes sense. So what happens, and by the way, there's custom barrel makers also that make this mistake. Let me tell you a story. It's more than a 10-year-old story. When we came out with our 220 grain 10mm load, which is our best seller, there was a barrel company. I don't even know if they're still around. I never hear from them anymore or hear about them anymore. They were called Lone Wolf. And they made good barrels, but they put no throat in their early 10mm barrels. They didn't know they should. And so people at that time were dropping aftermarket barrels in their Glocks. I mean, all because they misunderstood. And there's a YouTube video about this. They misunderstood the difference between a hard cast and a lead bullet. In the Glock manuals, it says don't shoot lead bullets. Lead bullets aren't hard cast bullets, although they're the same color, basically.
And a ton of YouTubers will use Tim's ammo and call them lead, and they're not.
Yeah, hard cast bullet is not lead, it's hard cast. It's got lead in it. So bottom line, everybody was buying these Lone Wolf barrels, and I mean just about everybody, and dropping them in their Glock Model 20 10MMs. Well, they had no throat, they had no lead. So our 220 grain ammo wouldn't chamber in them. And everybody thought it was the base of the cartridge was too wide, or this was wrong, or that was wrong. It was the ammo's fault. No, it's the way the barrel was made. So I contacted the people at Lone Wolf and I said, would you guys please put a couple 100 thousandths of an inch of lead in front of your chamber? Just put it right in front of your chamber. It doesn't make the chamber longer. The chamber still head spaces on the case mouth, but it removes the rifling for a couple 100 thousandths of an inch, depending on how long of a chamber throat or lead you want to put in there. So when you chamber a bullet with the ogive that's forward, like most high performance ammo is going to be in semi-autos. Most high performance 9mm, 10mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP is going to have some bullet ogive in front of the case mouth to create more case capacity so you can add more powder and get more velocity. It's just the old military ball ammo that has, in most cases, not in all, but in most cases, that'll have the bullet ogive even with the case mouth or even under the case mouth. So the folks at Lone Wolf kindly did as I asked. They experimented with it and they produced a few barrels and gave them to their employees to shoot our 10mm load in, which they did with total success. Everything chambered, everything worked, and my emails stopped finally with people telling me I didn't know how to make ammo. Because now if they bought a new Lone Wolf barrel, dropped it in their Glock 20, which I don't advise ever to put aftermarket parts in a gun unless it's done by a professional. This whole myth of drop-in barrels is a myth. Sometimes you can drop in a barrel and get away with it, everything works. Most times, no. Most times there's minor fitting or major fitting that needs to be done. So anyway, I quit hearing complaints from customers telling me I didn't know how to make ammo. Usually when ammo doesn't chamber, It's the ammo that's not chambering. So they forget all about gun dimensions, barrel dimensions, chamber dimensions, which are multiple. And they go, oh, the ammo didn't chamber. It's the fault of the ammo. The gun has so many more parts than ammo does and is so much more complex than ammo. But when the ammo doesn't go bang, it's the fault of the ammo. When the ammo doesn't chamber, it's the fault of the ammo. So, at least in people's minds, it's because they don't understand how complex handguns, rifles, any semi-autos, revolvers, there are so many dimensions that matter in a gun that will keep ammo from performing the way the ammo was designed, yet it will mistakenly become the ammo's fault because people don't know how to diagnose this stuff, and I don't blame them, but they don't know how. And it's back to that old idiom, you don't know what you don't know. If you knew something you didn't know, then you would actually know it. So you don't know what you don't know. Anyway, wanted to go over this little thing with ogives, with chamber throats, chamber leads. And if you're shooting a CZ, you don't want to fire our 9mm outdoorsman, because the ogive of the bullet is just outside the case mouth. And CZs are military guns. They're made with no lead, no chamber throat. They go straight from the chamber right into riflings. And you try to chamber a bullet that has ogive outside the case mouth, and you'll jam that ogive right into the riflings. And you'll think there's something dimensionally wrong with the ammo. The ammo will be stuck in your barrel. You'll have to get generally I use a wooden dowel and tap it out. So we don't want people misunderstanding what's going on. And these videos we do about ammo nuances versus gun nuances are a public service. We're trying to educate the public. There's a lot to learn here, and unless you've been in the business as an end user like me, not only do I design the ammo, but I'm a prolific end user. I shoot every day. If you're not at that level of being an end user, you won't understand these things until you encounter them. And when you do encounter them, you'll misdiagnose them because no one has taught you really what's going on. We will be doing a few more of these little instructional videos. We appreciate your time, and hopefully this helps clear up some rumors, some misconceptions. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but boy, I'm sure trying. If you're buying a semi-auto pistol that's into military manufacture, like CZs or FNs, and they're in Europe. In Europe, they don't have the really cool ammo that we have over here. I mean, we're starting to design really, really cool ammo over here. They don't have that stuff in Europe. They just shoot military ball. There's no...
Same with South Africa and Africa.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of that in Africa, but they're importing a lot of American-made ammo, and they're importing American-made guns too. So that helps a lot. But the European market is 100 years behind the American market. Well, 70 or 80 years behind anyway, when it comes to ammo design for like 9mm and anti-personnel type pistols, semi-auto pistols. Anyway, folks, God bless, and hopefully this is somewhat instructional, and we'll see you on the next video.